What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday night, which used to be our time for NBR. Now, I know I keep moving my schedule around, I keep moving my folks around, but you know what it is about about not only fan bases and audiences, right? But about good football teams. It's about responding in the face of adversity, and it's about being good situational football teams, right? Like in a turnover, okay? This is a prime example of, oh crap, our offense just turned the ball over. Let's get back on the field defense and pitch a shutout, right? Let's get the ball back to our offense. That's what I'm asking for you guys tonight. Get the ball back to the offense, okay? Have a great show. Show up, in the words of Kirby Smart, and be elite today, right? A lot of you are early. I know a lot of you are going to be loud. We already got people all in the comments, right? I need you to be intense. I need you to be intense tonight, okay? I need you to be tough as well. You're already being tough by showing up tonight on a different, unorganized, unorthodox time schedule. And I need you to bring that electricity, right? I need you to be elite tonight. So I would appreciate you by being elite. First of all, you did the first step, which is showing up and being early and being on time. This is NBR, Nothing But Rants, the show where I bring you topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about. And we got a loaded show for you, and I got a lot of takes that I'm hot about. I like this one to start the show, our opening kick, if you will. Is anyone good in college football? And I mean this. Is anyone good in college football? Georgia and Alabama both are hovering right now about 36% chance, according to the Football Power Index over there at ESPN. Take it for what it's worth, but it's very akin to Vegas lines right now. Both of them are about 36% chance to win the national title. And the next best team, the team that's in third, essentially, because Georgia's number one at like 36.4, Alabama's at number two at like 36.1. The second best team with the second best title odds to win the national title right now is Oklahoma at about 8%. So there's a drastic drop off from these top two teams. And we'll poke some holes in those guys in a little bit here in a second. But Oklahoma keeps sneaking out victories against lesser opponents, right? Against teams that aren't quite as good as them, barely beating them, needing last-minute drives and needing stops at the end of football games to beat lesser opponents like Tulane and like West Virginia, teams that they should handle pretty mightily. Ohio State continues to sleepwalk through their less than impressive early slate schedule, including the very opening game against a Minnesota team who just got beat by a non-Power 5 football team this past weekend. So Ohio State keeps stumbling through their schedule and keeps sleepwalking. Clemson appears to be just flat out god-awful. I mean, it is what it is, right? They just don't look very good. They don't look like the Clemson of old. They don't look like they have gotten things buttoned up early on in this football season. And again, if I really wanted to, if I wanted to poke holes in Alabama, I could say, look, you gave up 250 yards on the ground against Florida. You've had one test so far this season, because we know now how bad Miami is. You've had one test so far this season, and you damn near failed it on the road in Gainesville. You did. Again, you gave up 250 yards on the ground, Alabama. And if I really wanted to poke holes against Georgia or into Georgia, I could say, look, you've got one good game on your schedule, one tough opponent on your schedule that we thought was good coming into the season, and that's Clemson. And Clemson put up 14 points against Georgia Tech. By God, I would hope you held them to 3 points, right? I hope that you dominated that football game. And you didn't look so great on offense either against a team that gave up 21 points in North Carolina State last week in regular time, not to mention overtime. So if I really wanted to poke holes in both of these two teams that we think are superior to the rest of college football, and that Football Power Index would tell you are superior to college football, I could damn sure poke holes in those football teams too. So here we are 4 weeks into the season, and we're looking up and we're like, dadgum, is anybody good? Like, is it like, we know teams are good, but is anyone great? Right. And we'll talk about this a little bit more moving forward, but what's going on right now in college football? And it's something we talked about last week, which is parity, right? It's something that everyone's been clamoring for throughout college football for the last, decade, where it seems like Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama play every other year for the national title. So what's going on? Well, now teams are coming back to the mean, right? Alabama looks beatable. Georgia, if you come to it with the right approach, looks somewhat beatable. They haven't looked so far yet, but again, they haven't had much of a test so far early on in this football season. Ohio State looks bad. Clemson looks bad. Oklahoma, I mean, we'll talk about them a lot more a little bit later into the show, but yeah, who's good in college football right now? We don't know. And I think that's a very good thing. It leads for questions down the road that need to be answered. But if you look up in the college football playoff this year and there might be a 2-loss team in there, I wouldn't be surprised. This might be the first time it ever happens because, again, there's just nobody right now that looks to be that football team, right? That looks to be so dominant that you can just pin them in right now. Not even pencil them in. You can mark them down and pin. There doesn't seem to be one of those football teams just yet. So we shall see. But that is our opening kick, our opening rant, if you will, brought to you by Cola Kicks. How about that? 2 weeks in a row. I pointed at the right camera or right corner of the camera. Cola Kicks, where you can find all of your premier sneakers. If you're a sneakerhead like I am, it's why they're a sponsor on this broadcast, because they fit the product so daggum well. If you're a sneakerhead like I am, head over to colakicks.com. I promise you, the pair of sneakers that you've been looking for years, right? I've been looking for these Griffey trainers for so long. I walked in to their 706 location over there in Augusta. The one is our premier sponsor here. Walked in right there on the shelf, 12.5, bought them right there, brand new. Not quite dead stock, but they were bought by a reseller, bought from a reseller. They're a reseller themselves. So all sneakers authenticated, and all sneakers in all shapes and sizes. If you're a Jordan man like me, if you're an old school Nike guy like me, I did it. If you're an old school Nike guy like me, if you like Air Force Ones, if you like Yeezys, if you like all those things, I saw a pair of foams in there, a whole bunch of foam posits in there. Whatever your vibe is, whatever you like, I guarantee you Cola Kicks has got them. Check them out, colakicks.com. Use promo code Brooks to get $10 off any purchase of $100 or more. And, of course, the homies at Cola Kicks always give you that free shipping, which is very, very important. Before I tell you what we got tonight going on, we already got some super subs, so let's show them some love. Our boy, the DGD podcast, also ran by Robert Reynolds. A good podcast. If you're a Georgia fan, go check that one out. He says, 30 for you not telling me happy birthday Thursday. Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. You know, it's the thought that counts, even if the thought's late. So happy birthday, even though you had to tell me it was your birthday. And the other $5 for every Clemson loss this season. So I guess you owe me another $5 because they've got 2 losses. Just kidding. Appreciate your contributions to the podcast and to the show tonight. Our boy Jacob Darnell says the NBR better help me through my chemistry homework. Jacob, I promise you it will. I can't help you. I'm not a chemist. Okay. I do know a little something about chemistry. Just ask my wife, but I don't know nothing about the actual chemistry. I actually almost failed chemistry, AP chemistry in high school. So I'm not the one to ask. Paul Taylor says the stash with the cash. Thoughts on Razorback defense and edge rushers. Paul, remind me, SSL, if you're here tonight, remind me to hit this one at the end. We will do Q&A at the end of the night. But let's get into this podcast tonight. I keep calling it a podcast. Let's get into the show. Again, nothing but rants. And I've got a loaded one for you as per usual. We're going to talk about, if we can remain undefeated. We're going to see if we can remain undefeated in Stone Cold B's Austin's Lock of the Week. We are 2-0 so far. We'll see if we can go 3-0 this week. We've, of course, got buy, sell, and hold, which has become a fan favorite here on Nothing But Rants. So appreciate you guys' support on that segment. It is one of my favorites to do. It allows me to let you know where I stand and what I think about some of these news, notes, and storylines around the world of college football. If you haven't noticed, now that the season's kind of began, this has become much more of a national show in terms of we're going to hit the landscape of college football in a couple of these segments. But most of the show tonight will be about Georgia football, including the biggest deciding factors in Saturday's game coming up against Arkansas. Very, very big opponent, very, very big football game. The second top 10, matchup in as many as 5 weeks for the University of Georgia. And again, if you looked at this schedule before the season, you'd looked at that Arkansas game and you'd be like, yeah, they were pretty good last year, but are they really going to give Georgia another run for their money this year? Vegas says not so much. 18.5 point spread on that one. We will talk about that game tonight, and we will open tonight's show with how this defense and how they're going about playing the game of football right now and how they're dominating on the defense side of the football. We will talk about how it has directly impacted their recruiting in this 2022 class. And again, that's where we're going to start. Look, back in the summer, right? I told the folks over at Patreon, Deni Dennis Sutton was, I wouldn't say hands down, but he was very, very high up on the board for the University of Georgia. They hosted him for an official visit the first weekend of June. And not only did he fall in love with Georgia, but they fell in love with him. Well, the sources that I was talking to were like, this is our guy. We will hone in on him. We will try to get him. If we don't, we will recuperate and we will make plans otherwise. But this was their dude, DDS out of Maryland up there from the north. He obviously commits to Penn State, right? A huge loss for Georgia just from a staff standpoint, right? They loved this guy. They thought from a character standpoint and a football player standpoint, he was one of the best edge rushers in the class. He's now committed to Penn State. That was a big loss, right? And at that point in the summer, before the season started, it kind of looked like they were on the outside looking in for guys like Anai White and Shamar Stewart. Okay, Anai White looked like it was going to be an Ohio State type of recruitment. Going to have to battle him out of there, being a northern kid. Going to have to fight to get him down south. And they were kind of on the outside looking in before the season started. Same thing kind of for Shamar Stewart, right? That was a Miami-led recruitment for a long, long time. He's a Florida kid. It looked like that was going to be the team to beat. Well, now here we are 5 weeks into the season, and not only is Georgia dominated defensively, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but Miami's looking like Miami, right? Like we thought they would if you were paying attention to all the signs and the tea leaves in preseason. And Ohio State's kind of doing what they're doing right now, which isn't looking great, right? You get beat at home by a Pac-12 opponent in Oregon, and the rest of it's just kind of average, right? You sleepwalk against, I believe it was Tulsa, and then, yeah, you beat the brake drums off of Akron, who just might be the worst football team in Division I football right now. So congrats, but the rest of the schedule looks pretty daggum tough, and Ohio State doesn't look like they used to, right? So that's kind of helped with the Shamar Stewart recruitment and the Anai White recruitments in terms of both Miami and Ohio State being and kind of being mediocre, Miami being kind of a dumpster fire at this point in the season. That certainly helped. But flash forward to today, right? Georgia has the number one defense in America, and quite frankly, it's not even close. They are hands down the best defense. They have 0 holes at this point in the season. Yeah, we can talk about cornerback play. We can talk about that kind of stuff, but it hasn't reared its ugly head just yet, right? You got beat for 2 deep passes against South Carolina, but outside of that, this defense has been locked down and locked up for the better part of the year. 77 total yards against the Vanderbilt team that was averaging about 350 yards total offense coming into that football game. So they say what you want about Vanderbilt, but that offense had been putting up numbers against Power 5 opponents. They clearly had faced a football team like Georgia, and it showed Saturday, but this defense has flat out dominated. They have 15 total sacks on the year, and they're on pace to shatter any type of sack record they've ever had under Kirby Smart, while also being, elite in the passing game and elite in the turnover margin. They're turning teams over like they haven't done before. They've scored more touchdowns. I think they have as many touchdowns as a defense as they have given up as a defense. So they're hitting the head on all types of cylinders right now. They have guys like Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, Adam Anderson, and Jalen Carter, all on that front seven, which are primarily the positions that we're talking about with guys like Anai White and Shamar Stewart. All those positions right now, every single one of those guys I just named are top 60 type of NFL football players. The lowest drafted football player on that list I just gave you might be Devontae Wyatt or Trayvon Walker. And we're talking about second-round draft picks with those guys most of the time. With the guys that I talk to, that's kind of the feedback I'm getting. It's like, yeah, it's a second-round draft pick. He's going to be. Throw away the box score, throw away the stats and the statistical production. Those guys are second-round draft picks, period, point blank, off of what they've done on film. So here we are, nation's number one defense. Here we are, front seven with about 7 guys that are going to be top 60 picks. Why wouldn't you want to play for that defense, right? Why wouldn't you want to go and hang out and look at it and say, well, if you're Anai White or Shamar Stewart, just say, look, everybody counter recruits Georgia, or has for my first 3 years of high school football, while I've been a top 100 or top 200 type of caliber football player. Everyone's told me that, oh, Georgia doesn't put guys in the draft on the front line. They don't. They've had a defensive lineman drafted since like 2013. They haven't had a first-round draft pick on the defensive line since David Pollock back in, 2003. Georgia doesn't produce elite NFL talents. Well, guys, it don't look necessarily like that's the case no more, right? Again, Jordan Davis, first-round draft pick this year. He's dominating. Played 9 snaps Saturday. Don't matter. He's going to dominate. He's going to go to the NFL and play for a long, long time. So all these preconceived notions, all these anti-recruiting tactics that other schools like Ohio State have used, right? You don't think Ohio State throws Chase Young and the Bosa brothers in the face of Georgia recruits every single time they talk to them? I'm here to tell you they do. Okay, so now you look up and Georgia's got all the dudes, and Georgia's got the NFL Senior Bowl executive saying NFL scouts are telling him just go send a bus to Georgia. We're taking them all. It's Georgia's defense that people are talking about, right? It's not Ohio State. It's not Clemson. It's not Miami. It's not Florida. For the better part, it's not even Alabama right now. There are a lot of football teams and a lot of smart football guys that are talking about this Georgia defense right now, and it is impacting Georgia's recruitment class. In July, I would have told you no shot. Anai White, Shamar Stewart, probably not. They're going elsewhere. Here we are. It's September, almost October. Got 2 months left till National Signing Day, and Georgia's looking real, real good in a lot of these recruitments because of the way, not just the success, but the way in which they're having success defensively. These guys are dominating the line of scrimmage. They're allowing these guys to create what we call havoc plays, right? Sacks, tackle for losses, getting upfield, something that in years past Georgia's defenses weren't doing. They were very gap controlled, right? That's why you saw their linebackers have most of the NFL success. Well, now this front seven's really dominating. Now this front seven's having all this success, and it's because of a stylistic change that they've had in their defensive, film room, in their defensive meeting rooms. Well, we got all these dudes up front. Let's let them loose. Well, guess what? Guys like Kristen Miller, guys like even Michael Williams, guys like Anai White, guys like Shamar Stewart, they're starting to notice. They're starting to notice what's going on. And it doesn't take long. You sit around and watch them on Saturdays, and you're like, my God, so many dudes on that front seven. They're going to play on Saturdays. So on-field success, as we all know, right? Look at Alabama over the years, and Clemson for that matter. On-field success will always lead to recruiting success. So Georgia's got all this momentum right now on the field. Well, I'm here to tell you that very, very soon, and they've already gotten it with C.J. Madden a couple weeks ago, very, very soon, this on-field success is going to roll over into recruiting success. They go hand in hand. They are 1-1. That is a fact. So very, very soon, you'll see Georgia start really rolling it in when it comes to these commitments and when it comes to getting on top of these recruits and getting up those recruiting boards and up those top 3 lists and all that good stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. I know we had some more super subs come in. Let's show them some love before we get moving forward. Darian Davis says, we'll take Q&As at the end. So SSL, remember this one if you're here. Do you feel Brock Bowers will take away from playing time from Darnell Washington, being he's playing so well? We'll talk about this later in tonight's show. I promise you. I've also got a really long Twitter thread on it as we speak right now on Twitter. So if you want to check that out at Brooks Austin SI, but don't leave the program. No. So let's talk a little bit about this top 10 matchup, right? This top 10 matchup that's got one team favored by almost 3 touchdowns. 18.5 points was the opening line at Vegas. And I'm going to tell you why. And it has to do with all these factors that I'm going to talk about right now when it comes to keys basically to Georgia winning this football game, right? Arkansas currently averages 261 yards on the ground. I believe that's like 8th or 9th in the country in terms of yards per game on the ground, with about 220 yards through the air as well. So despite the rushing success, they're they are run heavy, but they're relatively successful through the air as well. And most of that's because they got a guy named Treylon Burks, who's really, really good on the outside, will play on Sundays, will likely be a first-round draft pick coming up soon. And if he's not, he's going to be, early second, early to mid-second, basically. So they're really, really good, and they're really, really balanced, right? Kendall Briles, their offensive coordinator, is very, very well known in the offensive world as an offensive mind, and they have physically overwhelmed their opponents on the ground. And not only just offensively, but defensively as well. They've pretty much controlled the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball to start this football season. So they got some dudes up front. They got some big boys, and they get after it, right? Both in the run game and defensively stopping the run, right? So that's what they've got going for them. And additionally, in their big-time games this year, right, they've played 2 quality opponents, okay? One at home, one on a neutral site, which kind of was a home game because Jerry Jones owns the stadium and he happens to be an Arkansas alum. So if you were to tell me that a lot of those tickets got sold to Arkansas fans, I wouldn't be shocked. I know they try to do 50-50 split in these neutral site games. I'm calling Fugazi, especially if you watch that football game. But both of their games, both their big time games, right? Texas and Texas A&M, they have wiped out the state of Texas. They've beaten everybody but SMU, and it's because they're not on the schedule. Both of those football games, they jumped out early, big time. Okay, big time. They're up 16-0 on Texas at half. Didn't even look like a game come second half. And against A&M, they were up 17-3 and just kind of held off in that second half. So, they've punched opponents in the mouth early on in these football games. I think a lot of these guys showed up and they're like, it's Arkansas. Okay. And then they got smacked in the mouth. As my boy Spencer Hall said, they got that whomping stick taken to them. Okay. Arkansas can punch you in the mouth. They can show up. They can play physical. They can do all that stuff. I mean, hell, their middle linebacker's name is Bumper Pool. So it's top 5 name in college football, no doubt. A linebacker named Bumper, give it to me. All right. And he brings it. They all do. All 3 of those linebackers that they rotate. Okay. So they got some guys defensively. Here's the keys if you're Georgia, right? If you're Georgia going into this football game, I think number 1, you have got to, and we'll talk about this further as we get into film study on Thursday, but you've got to make this football team one-dimensional, meaning you've got to make KJ Jefferson beat you with his arm, not his legs. You've got to sit there and say, all right, if KJ Jefferson and Arkansas are going to beat us, it's because KJ Jefferson beat us by throwing for 300 plus. That's what it has to be, okay? And because here's the deal. And I think this really bodes well for Georgia stylistically, and I think that's what you're seeing Vegas be so heavy on the dogs for, is because Arkansas is this run-heavy physical football team, right? Well, no one, and I mean no one, over the last 3 years has done that brand of football better than Georgia. Over the last 3 years, led the nation in rushing yards per game allowed on defense, period, point blank. This year, I think they're right around 74 yards per game on the ground. The year before, it was around 75. The year before that, I think it was even less in 2019. This team is elite. If you think you're going to show up and run the ball, we've talked about this over and over again. If you think you're going to show up and run the football against Georgia, you're going to lose. So this plays into Georgia's hands, okay? But if you're Georgia, you have got to limit the amount of explosive plays that Treylon Burks has. I think Arkansas had 14 completions last week for like 250 yards through the air. You cannot allow 15 yards per completion. You can't. And again, I think it leads to Georgia, right? Georgia's not known for allowing explosive plays through the passing game. They just haven't. Okay, the biggest and most explosive play I think I can remember is Jalen Waddle going for 90 against Georgia last year. And that was a miscommunication at the line of scrimmage. And someone said a push off, or someone say Tyson Campbell just fell. This is not a football team that allows explosive plays through the air, and that's what Arkansas kind of relied upon, right? We're going to punch you in the mouth, we're going to control the line of scrimmage, and we're going to take deep shots. None of that, and I mean none of that, lines up for what Georgia does defensively at all. It's a bad matchup for Arkansas on that front. The other thing that you've got to do, it's like we just talked about, you've got to survive that first blow. This Arkansas team shows up in the first and second quarter. They do. That's what they've done the first 4 games. Apart from their season opener, the last 3 games, they have showed up. They have showed up and balled out in those first 2 quarters. So you've got to get that out of your system if you're Georgia. You've got to come into this game ready to go. And I think that's why you've heard Kirby Smart and the rest of this fan base, or rest of this coaching staff and the rest of these players really reiterate to Georgia fans, like, hey, I know it's a new start, but you guys got to be loud as all get out before the game even starts. Y'all need to be in the stadium. Y'all don't need to be messing around at the tailgates, college game day. You don't need to be doing none of that. You need to be inside the stadium, giving them that vibe, giving them that energy. If that stadium is dead at 11:45, you're going to have a flat football team to open this game. Now, here's the other thing I will tell you about Georgia. Used to in years past, especially under Kirby Smart, I would say, like, look, lesser opponent, noon game, those 2 things have scared Georgia fan bases for a long time. This ain't that football team. It's not. This is a very educated and very experienced football team, and a football team that don't mess around. They don't play. Okay, they show up, they handle their business, they get out, they go home. Okay, they take an ice bath, and then they go do what college kids do. This is a team that so far this year has 100% handled their business in a manner in which they should. Okay, so if that's the team that shows up, key number 2 is, okay, you're going to survive the first blow. Matter of fact, you're probably going to punch first. If anything we've seen from Georgia this year stays true, Saturday, you're going to be the team punching first. So you've got that. You're going to be able to control the run game. This is key number one, right? Stop the run, make KJ Jefferson beat you, and you're going to survive the first blow because, again, this isn't a team that so far this year has showed a history or showed a DNA of being flat to open a football game. The other thing is, I think offensively, you've got to avoid becoming one-dimensional, okay? Which means what Arkansas does, okay, with Barry Odom as their defensive coordinator, what they have done is, be pretty daggum good stopping the run with 5 or 6 defenders in the box, which means they're dropping 5 or 6 defenders in the passing game. And if you know anything about Barry Odom's history, Barry Odom at Missouri, they led the nation in passing yards allowed per game multiple times. Okay. This dude, as a defensive mind, knows how to turn teams over and knows how to run complicated schemes and complicated coverages while also trying to stop the run with 5 or 6. So what that means is if you're just going to show up and you think you're going to throw the ball 35 times, JT Daniels, and you're going to run 3.8 yards per carry, and you're not going to be able to reset the line of scrimmage, and your offensive line is going to be causing blow-throughs, and your offensive line is not, handling their business up front, you're going to turn the ball over, Georgia. I promise you. That's what Barry Odom does. Barry Odom dares you to throw the ball. He dares you to throw the ball. And when you do, he's pretty good at teaching guys to break stuff up, right? And create havoc of their own and create turnovers. So if you're Georgia, again, show up, right? Make KJ Jefferson become one-dimensional. Survive the first blow. Come out, don't be flat. And the third and most important thing for me offensively is you cannot be one-dimensional in this football game. You can't. If they know you're throwing the ball on 65% of downs, they will turn you over. JT Daniels will throw multiple interceptions. But if you can control the line of scrimmage, and if you can be a balanced attack, if you can throw it 5% of the time and run it 45% of the time and control the ball, you're going to be okay. You're going to be 100% okay, and you're going to handle your business like Vegas thinks you're going to. 18.5 points, 100% on that one right there. All right, so here we go. I see some folks saying the stream glitching. Yeah, apparently I got some pretty poor Wi-Fi up here for that. I apologize. Not much I can do about that other than move downstairs. I've never had any problems up here. We've been pretty good when it comes to the Wi-Fi coverage up here. So if it keeps glitching, guys, I apologize, but it is what it is. Hope the takes are coming through and you're still getting quality content, or you're still getting quality content. I'm sure you are. But we've got buy, sell, and hold coming up your way right here. This is the segment that is as old as video in and of itself. I buy things, I sell things, and I hold things, right? All of these topics are quote-unquote stocks, and I've got a Spencer Rattler story coming up for you in this one as well in one of my selling topics here. So let's do a little self-scouting here. This is something I learned from one of my guys. I wouldn't say buddy, but an early mentor, gave me some advice when I first got into the media industry, and that's Chris Sims. And he would always tell his audience and tell me when I met him, you got to self-scout yourself, right? You got to go back, read through your takes, read through your articles, read through your tweets, do stuff like that, and self-scout yourself, just like I do on film with football players. I scout them, right? He did this wrong. He did that wrong step here, missed his time there. Right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to self-scout right here, right now on some of these previous topics that I've had on buy, sell, and hold. One of my very first ones that I had on buy, sell, and hold was telling you to sell that Clemson stock after Georgia beat them. And the primary reason was because I thought this offense was just dog water. I mean, flat out bad. And most of it revolved around their offensive line play. I thought leaving Georgia, that Georgia matchup, I thought I couldn't really tell quite yet what DJ Uyunglele was. I couldn't quite figure it out, but it's hard when getting sacked 7 times to even think about evaluating the quarterback because guys getting hit left and right. So I didn't really evaluate him much, but it turns out guys struggling. I mean, struggling big time with reads, with processing, with, getting the ball out quickly, holding the ball too long, not getting to a second and third read, things like that. So this offense is looking really, really bad. We sold that Clemson stock week 1. That's looking pretty daggum good. I was out on the Big Ten week 1 as well. And, one of their best teams in the conference, right? Quote unquote, best teams in the conference, Penn State. They're holding up that Auburn win. Yeah, we got them at home and we beat Auburn by 7 points, thanks to their starting safety getting thrown out for a bogus, targeting penalty. And then we see next week Auburn turn around and barely squeak out a win over just left and right over Georgia State right at home. Not a good look, right? Your best win as a conference right now, your best out-of-conference win is an Auburn game that doesn't look good, right? And you had a Pac-12 opponent go into the shoe and just beat the brake drums off Ohio State. I know that score looked tighter than it was, but if you watch that game, Oregon was, doing whatever it is that they wanted to. So I was out on the Big Ten early. That's looking pretty daggum good as of right now. I told you, hold off Michigan, right? Told you, hold off, and everyone telling me Michigan was good. They got shut out in the second half against a Rutgers team that previously was allowing the most rushing yards per game in the Power 5. That Rutgers team is not good. Do not let that 3-1 record fool you. That Rutgers team is bad. And Michigan got shut out. They got blanked for 2 quarters in the second half of that football game. Just hold off on telling me Michigan's good. We were holding that stock. We're still holding that stock. Now, let's be a little critical of ourselves, right? I told you to hold the Sam Howell stock. That's not looking good right now. It's not. It's hard against Power 5 football opponents. He's looked terrible. Okay, they looked bad against Georgia Tech. He looked awful early on in the year against Virginia Tech. And it is what it is, guys. He has hardly any offensive line. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for the man, but he's pressing a little bit as you would if you have no talent around you. And it's just not looked great. And for a guy that I told you to hold stock on, I'm very, very close to selling it, at least for this year. I'm not selling his overall prospect as a football player, but as of right now, that looks like a miss on my part, and that's why we self-scout. Now, on to this week's version of buy, sell, and hold. I'm buying Mario Cristobal at Oregon. I'm a little bit late to this train, but I saw something this weekend that really stood out to me, and it was the clip of him going absolutely, bonkers on a young defensive back, sophomore defensive back, after he got a personal foul penalty on sportsmanlike conduct after an interception. And I mean, this dude, Cristobal, is throwing the headset. He's giving the finger point. I can only imagine he's MFing the kid. He is just laying into this kid. But the most important thing to me, as someone who was watching it, right, as an innocent bystander, was the eye contact the young man showed to Cristobal. I mean, he wasn't budging. He was staring Cristobal through his soul, absorbing every single one of those heated words that was coming out of Cristobal's mouth. And when I see something like that, right, when I see a coach just absolutely tearing into a kid and demanding excellence, because that's what that was. They were up in a football game. He made a great play, which, great interception, but then got an unsportsmanlike conduct, right? So that right there, for that coach to go absolutely bonkers, all that is a really good football coach demanding excellence from a program that's on the verge of being excellent, right? They're right there. They're right there from turning the corner. And to watch that player, most importantly, the player, respond to a coach that's doing that, that's what buy-in looks like, guys. Like when coaches like Kirby talk about, we got to get guys to buy in. That is a physical and a picturesque version of what that looks like. That is the definition of buy-in. When a young player is getting absolutely chewed out on national television for the right reasons, right? And is just right there with coach saying, yes, sir. Eye contact, conversation ended with yes, sir. They moved on. The kid ended up going on and having a good game the rest of the game. That's what buy-in looks like, guys. That's exactly what it is. And additionally, on top of that, right, you've got guys inside your program that believe in you, that listen to you, that are, quote unquote, buying into what you're selling, what it is, the product that you're selling. But more importantly, I wouldn't say more importantly, but just as important, this dude is crushing on the recruiting trail. I mean, crushing. For a Pac-12 football team all the way up there in the Northwest, he is absolutely crushing right now on the recruiting trail that no other Pac-12 team is doing. Kayvon Thibodeau in 2019, that 7th overall class, right? In 2020, they signed Justin Flo and Noah Sewell, my number 1 and number 2 linebackers on the board in 2020. Signed them both. 11th overall class in that class. And then Ty Thompson in 2021, and they signed the 6th overall class last year. And what do all of those football players have in common? They're all from the West Coast, every single one of them. This dude is pounding the hell out of California, Utah, and Arizona. Every single year, the best player out of those 3 states is going to Oregon. They are. So in an area of the country where nobody's recruiting really, really well, and I mean nobody's recruiting like Oregon is right now out west. He's doing that with an SEC background and he's got players buying in, buy it. Buy all the stock you can right now on Mario Cristobal. I promise you, Oregon will continue to be in the national picture as long as he is there, okay? As long as he is there, because they continue to recruit, and he is obviously getting buy-in from his football players, which, again, is very, very important. It's not coach speak when guys like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart talk about this type of stuff, right? The number one thing with that tight end that Nick Saban was sitting, he was basically sitting him because he wasn't buying into the program. He wasn't doing the things that he was supposed to be doing. That's what good coaches do, guys. They require and demand excellence from their football team and from their players on their football team. That's what good football teams do, and that's what good coaches do. I'm here for Mario Cristobal. I'm also buying this stock, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm buying it because I want it to happen. I think there should be 3 SEC teams in the playoff this year. Sitting right here, week 4, after week 4, heading into week 5, you can't tell me there are 2 better football teams right now in college football outside of Alabama and Georgia than Ole Miss. You can't. You can't watch Ole Miss right now early in this season and say, yep, that's the top 4 team in the country. I believe it. I watch them. They're lead the nation right now, or second in the nation right now in rushing yards per game. They're putting them like 500 yards of total offense. Okay. Yeah, they might lose to Alabama this week, but I bet you they're giving them a run for their money. Here's the test. Let's ask you, the audience. Right now, Ole Miss goes and plays Penn State on a neutral field. Who are you taking? Right now, Ole Miss goes and plays Oregon on a neutral field. Who are you taking? Right now, Oregon goes and plays Iowa on a neutral field. Who are you taking? I think you're taking Ole Miss in a lot of those football games, and that's not just SEC bias. That's just watching it, seeing what it looks like, right? I would sit there and say, Ole Miss, top 4 team in this country right now. They are. That's what they look like to me when I watch them, and I think that it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen because here's what's going to happen. Ole Miss is probably going to lose to Alabama, and even if they don't, then Alabama is probably going to get kicked out of this football or this college football playoff conversation. But Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss are the 3 teams that I look at right now, week 4, heading into week 5, where I look at them and I go, yeah, no, there's not a lot of questions on those football teams. They got good quarterback play. They manage the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They don't turn it over. They can score and score quickly. They got an explosive offense, and they got a relatively good defense. Relatively holding for Ole Miss. The rest of them have elite defenses. Alabama and Georgia still elite on the defensive side of the football. But guess what? Ole Miss can score 60 with anybody. And I think you'll find that out this weekend. I think that's going to be a hey, let's see who can, let's say a race to 50. Let's see who can get to 50 first in that football game. So I'm buying the opportunity for once for there to be 3 SEC football teams in the college football playoff. Look, Oklahoma is not a playoff football team right now. They are not. I don't see a college football playoff team in the Big Ten. I don't know if you guys do. And yeah, maybe Oregon squeaks in. We give them that one. We damn sure know that there's not a college football playoff team coming out of the ACC. Clemson's proven that. So what are they going to do? Take NC State? No, they're not. So we can mark off the ACC at this point. They're gone. They're perennial playoff contender, already crapped the bed this year. So that leaves the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the Big 10 to muster up somebody worthy of playing in that college football playoff. And right now, I don't see it happening outside of Oregon, which is the one I'm giving you, right? So here we go. That's a stock I'm buying, but again, I don't think it happens. Now, I teased this one this weekend on Twitter, and this is why when it comes to quarterbacks, man, like it's very, very important to get in-person evaluations on everybody, right? If you can, but I'm only one person, right? So I can't go see everybody. It's impossible. I don't have the budget. I don't have the time. So I can't see everyone. But by God, when there's a talented quarterback, especially if Georgia is, recruiting them in the high school ranks, I need to go see them, right? And I need to spend a lot of time around them. I need to know what their why is, who they are, what their composition is, what makes them a football player, not a quarterback, what makes them a football player, which is why an event like the Elite 11 is very, very vital for an evaluator like me. to go out there, see it. Even though Gunnar Stockton didn't go this year, I still wanted to be able. I've seen Gunnar 100 times at this point. I still wanted to be able to stack him up against the rest of those guys, right? The Malik Murphys, the Quinn Ewers, the buddy that's going to Clemson, forgetting his name. He won the Cade Klubnik, right? I wanted to stack them up, the Ty Simpsons of the world. I wanted to look at these guys face to face, see them, what they physically look like, and how they performed. Well, the other great thing about the Elite 11 is every single year they have what they call camp counselors, okay, which are college football players that are former Elite 11 guys or, really, really great college quarterbacks now that they bring in, right, and let be counselors of this camp, right? Just like your summer camp has camp counselors, the Elite 11 has camp counselors. Well, this year, the camp counselors were Sam Howell, Malik Willis, Dorian Thompson-Robinson over there from UCLA, and, of course, Spencer Rattler. Now, all the other quarterbacks, they worked out every single day except for the 7-on-7. So they worked out 3 of the 4 days that we were there. They did, kind of some workout schedule type, drills. Friday night, Saturday, they did their pro day, and Sunday, they just kind of tossed it around in 7-on-7. Well, of course, every other quarterback performed every day. They went out there and worked every day. They threw the pro day script. They did all that good stuff. Spencer Rattler only threw one night, but I learned a lot about Spencer Rattler in that one night, other than the fact that he just didn't want to perform the last 2 days. But, okay, I learned a lot about him in one drill. And again, these kind of things, I'm a little nerdy about this kind of stuff, but when I watch it, I take mental notes and I write these things down because most of the time they bear true when it comes to especially the quarterback position. Okay, so here I'll walk you through the story. Okay. They're doing this goal line drill, right? And it's a simple drill. You take a 7-step drop from under center, right? You read number 1, you read number 2, you evade the pressure, right? Get out of the pocket, and then throw the dig all the way across on the move to your right, right? That's the drill. Downset hut, take your 7-step drop, gain depth, 1, 2, reverse out on the move, throw the dig. It's just to see, hey, can you take a drop? Can you evade pressure, and can you throw on the run in the red zone? That's all it is, right? And over again, Rattler's taking this drill, right? And the ball looks great coming out of his hand. Don't get me wrong. The ball is absolutely humming. It's one of the best arms I've ever seen, most arm talent you'll ever see. All that stuff, I'm not telling you anything new here. You already know that. People have been saying that about the kid since he was 15 years old. But here's what I learned. He's taken what can, and I don't want to say, it's a half butt drop. He's just not working through it. He's not really trying hard. He's not what we call gaining depth in your drop. Like when you take a 7-step drop, you really want to gain ground, right? You want to separate yourself from the line of scrimmage because it is a heavy drop, right? So he's taking this kind of lackadaisical, half butt 7-step drop. And the trainer, right, the quarterback coach, and all of them are really, really good. We're talking about the nation's best at what they do. The quarterback coach goes, hey, Spencer, why don't you gain depth? Why don't you gain ground? Take the rep. Like, do it the right way. Do it like you would do in a game. And Spencer turned around and goes, but coach, it ain't a game. It's not a game. We're just out here. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, doesn't practice to prepare for a game, just wants to play the game. And that right there, to me, I take the mental note back in July, and I'm thinking, hey, man, like, just write that down. Dude doesn't care about practicing. Dude doesn't want to get better in practice. He just wants to play games. And that's fine. It's not fine ever, first of all, if you want to be an NFL football player. That's fine if you play defensive end and you just really, really want to work on your body, work on your get off, work on your hand fighting moves, and in practice, you kind of just loaf around. People have made it to the pinnacle of that sport just doing that based off their physical gifts. But I'll tell you this right now, ain't no quarterback ever made it to the pinnacle of that sport not giving a crap about practice. They haven't. So when I see a player that's shown no progression from year 1 as a starter to year 2 as a starter, guess what? I don't scratch my head because I saw that. Coach, it's not a game. Coach, we're just practicing. Yeah, like they're saying in the YouTube comments, he did Allen Iverson. We talking about practice. Yeah, we are talking about practice, but guess what? You're not AI and you can't average 30 points by just showing up, okay? Nobody can do that at the quarterback position. Go watch. And I suggest any football fan, period, whether you hate the guy or love him, I suggest any football fan watch that Tom documentary that had on Facebook a couple years ago. Go find that thing and watch how that dude goes about his offseason regimen. Watch how that dude prepares and works out, right? Go watch him. He is lathered in sweat every single time he's out there. Hell, the dude practices and trains in the offseason in helmet and shoulder pads because he's a psycho about getting better. If you're not a psycho about getting better, you're not going to show progression from year 1 to year 2. You're just going to be the same guy over and over again. Have you seen any physical maturation with Spencer Rattler? No, you haven't. He looks the same as he did in high school. So there we go. Like, if you want to figure something out, go watch some of these kids in person. Go watch some of these young men, because that's what he is, in person, and see what they look like. I'll tell you who wasn't loafing: Malik Willis. He wasn't. I'll tell you who has shown massive, and I mean massive, amounts of physical maturation in the way just his body looks. Malik Willis. That joker looks like a linebacker, and he throws hellacious seeds. And he's also a really, really good athlete, and he makes crazy plays on the run, right? But he's had his humbling experience. He has. And when he left Auburn, he was very, very much so humbled. And guess what? He spent the last 2 years working his butt off to get better at his position, at his craft. I think this is Spencer Rattler's humbling moment. So maybe he does respond. Maybe the next time a coach says, hey, son, take it like you're going to take it in the game, he says, yes, sir, I'll get better. Not, coach, you're talking about practice? So there you go. Right now I'm selling all Spencer Rattler stock. And I know that was a long way to tell you that, but I've been selling Spencer Rattler stock since July, if I'm being honest, since I saw that, because again, that kind of crap don't play. That kind of crap don't play at the quarterback position. Never has, never will. Not in this game, not no more. Not with the way it has moved and progressed in the skill set and the mental aspect of this football game. So I'm out on that one. All right, here we go. On to our hold of the segment, right? What stocks are we holding? Look, I've been selling Clemson stock, but I'm selling Clemson stock on this year. I'd hold off on all you guys out here saying Dabo Swinney's regime is over with. Now, there are a couple of things, right, that make me think that maybe that's possible. I don't think Dabo Swinney is going to handle name, image, likeness very well. I really don't. He's actually been on the record saying he will retire the moment college football players are paid. Well, guess what? That's coming pretty quickly. It's name, image, and likeness right now. They come in for revenue splits pretty daggum quickly. You think when that college football expands, they're going to let the NCAA get all them billions of dollars? Nope. There's going to be, stipulations that require you to give a small percentage of that to the athletes. So I don't think a lot of this stuff he's going to handle very well. But guess what? The dude's won 10 games every single year since 2011. That's a decade, folks. That is a decade of winning 10-plus games. So don't be out here throwing dirt on Dabo Swinney's grave just yet, okay? Not just yet. Just hold off on that one. I'm holding that stock, again, because the ACC is perennially way too bad to think that Clemson is not going to out-recruit everybody and ultimately outplay them on Saturdays. I just can't believe it. I cannot sit here in September of 2021 and think, yep, Dabo Swinney's done. He's not done yet, okay? He's had a bad year this year, but he ain't done yet. He'll be back on top of that ACC very, very quickly, because who's he got to beat? He got to beat Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, okay? Not necessarily football powerhouses. Miami, dumpster fire. North Carolina, not looking great. Mac Brown probably going to retire within the next 2 or 3 years anyways. Okay, so none of this stuff is really matching up for me thinking, oh, yeah, Clemson's down in the dumps, and they're going to stay down in the dumps. They may not be a national title contender every single year, but guess what? It's the ACC, so they're going to be in the playoff picture if they remain undefeated like they have most of the time over the last couple of years. It just ain't looking great right now. I think they made the wrong choice at the quarterback position, and they haven't shown an ability to develop him yet or help him out with the offensive line just yet. So hold that stock and don't be out here selling all of the Clemson stock, because they will be back at some point. The other thing I'm holding off on, and I know this is a Georgia stream, and everyone here is mostly Georgia fans. I know we get sprinkled in with opposing fan bases every once in a while, but I would be very, very careful if I was a Georgia fan thinking Darnell Washington's going to come out Saturday and light it up, or play a bunch of reps, or do anything like that. Okay. Hold off on thinking Darnell Washington's going to play to the standard and to the ability and to the usage that he did to end the season against Cincinnati last year. Guys, we're talking about a 6'8", 265-pound man, okay, that had foot surgery. I don't know if you follow the NBA, but that's the only precedence I have for anything like this. Most of these guys take a little while to come back. It hurts for a long time. It does. Their feet are much larger than everyone else's. Basic genetics, right? They're very, very big people. And when it comes to foot injuries, I'm very, very cautious of thinking that, hey, they're just going to walk back onto the field and be themselves. The 5'9", size 11, 12, wearing Tyke Smith, probably going to be okay very, very quickly. The 6'8", size 37 shoe wearing Darnell Washington, let's hold off on thinking he's just going to be himself this weekend if and when he gets back onto the field. Okay. So just hold that. That's not sourced information. That's just me knowing the anatomy of a human being, right? It's just not normal for a guy that big to have foot surgery and just turn around 4 weeks later and be like, oh yeah, he's back to normal. Oh yeah, we're going to split him out. Oh yeah, we're going to make him an end of line blocker. He's going to block 25 reps today. Just hold off. Okay. He's probably going to get sprinkled in. That's what I think is going to happen. He's going to play 15, 20 snaps on Saturday. And guess what? That's 15 or 20 snaps more than you've had all year from him. So it definitely helps Georgia. But don't be out here thinking you got this two-headed monster just yet. Okay? Just yet. Not quite. All right. Let's get into our final segment of the day, and it's a quick one. We got Stone Cold Bees Austin's Lock of the Week. Now, we are 2-0 as it currently sits going into week 4. Week 4 or week 5. Going into week for whatever we're at, okay? We picked the last 2 weeks, and we have pounded these ones. I mean, put the mortgage on them. And the last 2 weeks, we're 2-0, okay? I laid the wood. Both these been favorites. I think we're actually going to take our first dog of the segment all year this week. But we laid the wood on that Ole Miss minus 14 against Tulane 2 weeks ago. Cashed it big time, okay? Daddy needs a new pair of shoes, and I got them. All right, so got on there last week. We chucked up that 5 points at Kentucky. Kentucky on the road to South Carolina. And I'm not going to lie. It was a little shaky there for a while. But scared money don't make no money. I'll tell you that. Okay. It didn't look great. They won by 6. Your boy got another pair of shoes. We cashing out, dog. So we're cashing out again this week. And we're going to ride. And this is something that makes me really, really scared. I never do this. I never bet against Alabama. This week I'm doing it. I got it at 17. You can find it at multiple different platforms, multiple different point spreads. I got Ole Miss plus 17, and that's too easy, in my opinion. Nothing makes me happier than watching an Ole Miss game and rooting for an Ole Miss touchdown because you know it's going to happen. It is. They're going to score some daggone points on Saturday. I don't care what anybody tells you. Lay that 17 points if you can find it at that. Hell, tease it up if you got to. Tease it down. I think this is a close game. I think this is a 7, 10, 14-point game. Okay? I do think Alabama wins. If Ole Miss won it, wouldn't be shocked. Okay? So I've covered all my bases now. Okay? But I'm laying that. I'm taking that 17 points. I think they're going to cover it. So that is the Stone Cold Lock of the Week here with Ole Miss. Should we do some Q&A before we head out tonight? Let's get on it. Yeah, I'm with you. No way they beat Ole Miss by 17. I'm with you right there, says Classic City Sports Podcast. Another good one. That is Dogs Daily affiliated, so go show the love to the folks over there. Let's get up to some of these Q&As we had earlier while you guys load them up. I know we had some right here. Robert Franklin, a super sub, appreciate you for it, says, when do you see Blaylock coming back? Is he practicing? He's been practicing. He's just been dealing with a hamstring issue that I've been told. Actually, I'm not going to give you that one. We're going to put that on Patreon. Sorry about that. It's not a public forum discussion right there. So we will hide that one behind a paywall. So if you want that information, what's really going on there, what's actually causing the hamstring issue, feel free to check out patreon.com/Brooks Austin, which I'm sure most of you guys are already here. Frederick Meredith says, Brooks, are you buying the Bryce Young stock? Been buying it. It's one of our first stocks we bought to start the season on buy, sell, and hold. We've been buying Bryce Young stock. I think he's uber talented. Still young, though. Still very, very young. So he is bound to make some mistakes every once in a while. All right, let's move on to some more questions here. Guys, always make sure when you ask questions during the stream to put a question mark up. That allows me to see them much quicker and makes my job a little bit easier. Not that you care about the difficulty of my work. Let's see here. Thoughts on Pope's situation at Ohio State. So you're talking about the player quitting. You know, guys, I've seen a lot of football players quit. Look, football ain't for a lot of people. I don't care if you're at Ohio State. I don't care if you're at Georgia, wherever you're at. Sometimes football ain't for a lot of people. And from my understanding of this situation, and I haven't read up on it a ton, it sounds like Buddy wasn't getting a bunch of playing time, ran himself onto the field, first of all, subbed himself into a game, got his butt chewed on the sideline, and then threw a hissy fit. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't see, if you're asking me, Robert, if I have any thoughts on the way Ohio State handled it, they handled it like every other coach would. You can't just sub yourself in, son. That's not how this works. If you want to throw a temper tantrum, if you want to throw a temper tantrum, by God, do it. If you want to go on your phone and tweet F Ohio State, good luck, boys, after the game, that's fine. All you're doing is making the next coach know that you're not one that they need to take. That's all you're doing. I ain't got no problems with the way that was handled in terms of Ohio State because it wasn't handled. Guy wants to quit. The guy wants to quit. Aaron Bennett says, what's up, Brooks? I know you're probably tired of this question, but what's the word on Eric Gilbert? I shouldn't even read this one. We're punting on this. I've been punting on this situation all year, okay? It's not for me to tell you, and it's not, honestly, it's not even worth asking. So we're just not going to talk about it, okay? So sorry. I know you come here to a Q&A platform. You expect me to answer your question. I'm pleading the fifth. Sorry about that. And I know it's something that everybody wants to know about and everybody wants information on. It's not something that I've got. Kirby said William Poole is available thoughts. Depth piece, right? Finally got the grade situation figured out. It's just a depth piece. He may or may not play. So it is what it is. Eric Taylor asking again about Eric Gilbert. Guys, I'm not going to answer it. I really do appreciate you asking that. And I want to say this. I have an appreciation and understanding of why it is that you want to know. I hope that you extend that same courtesy to me with the idea that I can't really talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's not something that I'm going to talk about. I hope that you could express that to me or extend that rather that same courtesy to me. You like the under in UGA Arkansas. Seems like both teams won't give up big plays, just like UGA and Clemson. I don't know what that line's at. If someone in the YouTube comments wants to chat on it, look, life's too young to be betting unders. I'm not one of these guys. I don't bet over unders. I bet lines. That's what I do. So yeah, if you want to chase some unders, that's fine. I can see your reasoning for it. Yeah, 100%. Like, let's say the line. I think personally, this is like a 28-17 type football game. So what's that? 45 points. So yeah, whatever it is. Did Speed play Saturday? Yes, he did. And I think Ringo's going to get the start again this weekend. Richard D says, saw your left or right guard versus Schaefer. So when you're bumping a guy in, you would rather the guy that's been playing guard flip sides, right? It's still, you got to be amphibious to play both sides, left and right. And if one guy's already been practicing being an amphibian, it's better for him to move over there as opposed to moving a guy from left tackle all the way to right guard. That's a pretty big transition. So I would think Schaefer bumps down to right guard if that ultimately ends up being the move. Let's see here. You think Kentucky has a shot to beat Florida? 100%. I think Kentucky can give anybody a run for their money this year. I love what they do, just stylistically, who they are as a program, what Mark Stoops has done there over the years. I buy Mark Stoops stock every single year. I'm pretty sure the last 5 years I've bet the over on total wins for Kentucky. I just have. I've been buying that stock forever, and hopefully this year it comes true. Last couple of years it spurned me towards the end of the season. So yeah, I think they got a shot because they can stop the run and they can run the football themselves. So if you can do those two things, you got a shot to beat Florida this year. That is 100% right there. Brock Bowers, freshman All-American, buy, sell, or hold. Oh, it's sold already. That sucker's done. That dude's freshman All-American, first team. Lock it up. Put it in the books. Write it in stone. It's over with. Score prediction on Saturday. Kind of already gave you that one. I think it's 28-17 type of football game. Is Darius Smith out if UGA gets two other guys? No, he is not. Look, it's something I've told the Patreon folks for a long time. They think they found a gem in Darius Smith. They think they do. They think they got the next one. Okay. They don't know when it's going to happen. They don't know if it's a year 2, a year 3 type of deal. They think Darius Smith's going to be a stud. And for that matter, I do too. If you see the physical maturation between year 2 and year 3 of his high school career and now year 3 and year 4 of his high school career, this kid's going to be special. He's 6'6", 240 pounds, and runs sub 50 seconds in the 400. Those are numbers that every NFL evaluator is going to lick their chops on right now. Okay. And this is a guy that has not even scratched the surface of the level of football player that he's ultimately going to be. So, no, I don't think they quote unquote process him at all. He's the type of guy that they want in this class for sure. They'll just take 3 edge rushers. That's fine. Do you think we will have the same game plan for Arkansas QB like we did DJ? No. By the way, I don't think Georgia does anything like super specific in terms of defensive schematics. They kind of just line up and do what they do. They kind of make you respond to what it is that they're doing defensively. They hunt. They don't sit back and wait. They hunt 100% right there. Jermaine Johnson having regrets at FSU? No, I don't think so. I think Jermaine Johnson left for a good reason. He wasn't going to get no playing time this year either. He might have gotten a little bit of playing time, but, I mean, he's starting every single rep there right now. He's like second or third in the nation in sacks. I think he's okay. I think he's fine. That decision was about playing time and a shot at the NFL, both of which he was going to struggle to get this year at Georgia. Do we ever figure out if a true freshman has won the Mackey Award? I don't know. Drew, 35-35. I don't know. Anyone better than Bowers at this point in the season? I don't think so. I think he's leading the nation at the tight end position. How about Arian Smith playing time? Yet to be determined. I'll have more on that come towards the end of the week. Asking me about Treylon Burks, P. Rich is over in the YouTube comments. I'm not as plugged into Arkansas as I am to Georgia. So there we go. I'll try to find out by the end of the week. I promise you there. Last question of the night, unless we got any more super subs coming in. Why is Kearis Jackson taking so long to get back? I thought a scope knee was a preventative operation and didn't have a long recovery. You are correct. It is a very preventative operation. Also something we're going to talk about with the Patreon audience, probably since I've been teasing it, probably as soon as we get off the live stream today. But here's what I'll tell you. Okay. Kirby Smart, as a coach and as a man over the last 5 years he's been at Georgia, and since I've been, observing him, he's very, very cautious with his football players. He does not rush anyone back onto the field if he don't need them. Okay. Especially if they're not confident in their own structure of their own knee. So I think that's what you're seeing going on right now with Kearis. He's taken so long to come back because A, they had the ability to do so. There was no pressing issue for him to get on the field. And B, this is Kirby's MO. He's very, very protective of his athletes, especially young men like Kearis. All right, we got our boy Jeremiah. I think that's you, Jeremiah, coming in. It might be Jonathan Williams coming in saying, appreciate you, Brooks, with the super sub. Appreciate you, my guy. Shane Cawthron. I do this every week. You're going to text me and tell me what that name, how to pronounce that so I don't keep butchering it. 8 months ago, the big news was LSU misappropriations of funds for a local hospital and paying players. I haven't heard anything about it since. Any news on that situation? That's called the NCAA, brother. It's the NCAA. NCAA catches you red-handed, comes back for retribution, 6 years later. Baylor being a primary example right there, right? The Art Briles stuff was like 2015. It just gave them a suspension. And it wasn't even a suspension. It was like a $2,500 fine. It's the biggest joke in history of jokes. It's the NCAA. Until conferences, which they'll never do, until other schools get really, really pissed off about other schools cheating and getting caught and not getting punished for it, until conferences start getting involved in these punishments, you're going to see the NCAA do what they did to Baylor. There was literal domestic sexual assault covered up by the football program and the athletic administration at Baylor. They got a fine, no bowl ban, no limitation of scholarships. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Okay. So again, until some of these conferences start saying, look, we're going to hold our own accountable to hell with the NCAA, then you're probably never going to see any of this stuff happen, especially now that the NIL is coming around. It's legal cheating. Anybody that's actually paying attention will tell you that it's legal cheating. If your booster owns a business, and people, this ain't no secret, guys. I'm not out here hot taking you. If one of your boosters owns a business, there is no limit on what that business can pay one of your athletes. It's legal cheating. So, yeah, why would the NCAA go slap LSU down right now? What are they doing? They just passed a law for everyone to cheat. So who cares? Let them go, right? Let everybody go. Let the dogs out of the cage. Everything's good. All right. We are done for tonight. Appreciate you for being here. We got some film studies coming later in the week for the Patreon folks. I will be back publicly Thursday with a what to expect about Arkansas. Should be a very, very good one. Appreciate you guys for being here. Hit that thumbs up before you head out. And if you're not already, become a member of our family over there on Patreon, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Appreciate you guys. Catch you next time.